It's no secret to anybody that the Chicago Cubs need more pitching, but what they specifically need is a closing pitcher. They also need a starting pitcher. So we're going to cover today talking about the Cubs needing a starting pitcher, what that could mean for Roki Sasaki, what are some other things we're hearing out there about him and him potentially coming to the Cubs, as well as we're going to talk about Tanner Scott potentially being the Cubs closing pitcher, but they need to act fast because the Dodgers seem to be closing in on that. It's Friday. Let's do it, y'all. Right after the intro. What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Friday, all of my Cubs fans out there, guys. I appreciate you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the CCC. This is your boy Mike Jones back with another episode of the Chicago Cubs Central right here on Chi-Town Sports Central Network. And guys, listen, we have been talking and talking and talking and talking about those Chicago Cubs. And we've been talking about Roki Sasaki. We've been talking about some other things that are going on with the Cubs. But today I wanted to focus in on closing pitching for the Chicago Cubs, guys. This is going to be paramount to the Chicago Cubs' success in 2025. Again, we have spoken many a time about covering the margins, about making sure that the Chicago Cubs are doing what they need to do to be successful and win 90 plus games next season. I know we've talked in ad nauseum about the hitting and needing hit guys to hit the ball, needing guys to score runs, needing guys to get on base, and that is all still very true. But another way the Chicago Cubs can get better around the margins is it is may end up costing them a little bit more than what they might be willing to pay is finding a shutdown closing pitcher. Now, I know what you say off of that, Mike. We had Porter Hodge last year at the end of the year, and he seemed nearly unhittable for the most part. He came and shut games down, closed games for the Cubs, was able to do what he needed to do after we got rid of the weary Hector Neris, and obviously Aber Alzolay went on the DL. And I would tell you that Porter Hodge is still very young. He is hitting triple digits, but he is still very young and still has some things to learn. I, on the other hand, am of the mindset of this next season. If you really want this season to be taken as serious as possible, it's imperative that you not just leave stuff up to chance. And one of the things you can't leave up to chance is kind of like you did in 2024. Just, hands down, our closer is Adbert Alzolay. So you come into the 2025 season and you say, hands down, our closer is Porter Hodge. I think that would be a grave mistake for the Chicago Cubs to make this season. If we are really all about trying to get better around the margins, if we're really all about trying to win and win this division, then it's going to be important for us to make sure that we get a closing pitcher that can lock down games for us. If Adbert Alzolay had even closed half the games that he was in as the closer, the Chicago Cubs record would have looked drastically different. Let alone if one Hector Neris had not given up so many of those endings of those games, the Chicago Cubs record would have looked a lot different towards the end of last year. And it just comes down to the fact that those guys just not being clutch, not being able to close the deal for the Chicago Cubs last year. I think Adbert's stuff had a lot to do with him being injured and maybe trying to play through injury. I think Hector Neris's stuff, his problem was this. I think it was mental for him. He would get himself in these situations. I mean, it was almost like on a nightly basis. He'd have to load the bases up and maybe even walk a guy and let them score a run before he could be able to close and shut the deal. I remember I was at the Chicago White Sox versus Chicago Cubs game at Guaranteed Rate Field last year, where Hector Neris came in the ninth, loaded up the bases, and then literally got the fly out at the end to end the game. And I mean, it was almost like had to go into cardiac arrest to even watch Hector Neris pitch in the ninth. Whereas this year, I would like the Cubs to go out and I would like the Cubs to go get a shutdown pitcher, somebody that you could bring into the ninth. And I'm not talking about Edwin Diaz type. I mean, like I said, that'd be great. That'd be wonderful. He's considered the best closer in baseball widely right now. I mean, it'd be nice to have somebody like that. But there is an option out there that is just as good as Edwin Diaz. I mean, like I said, I mean, and he's not as flashy, but his name is Tanner Scott. Now, Tanner Scott is on the free agent market. He did pitch for the Padres last year. And like I said, he is one of those better pitchers that's out there that's in the open free agent market. So John Conahan reported that the Chicago Cubs are looking into acquiring the services of Tanner Scott. He said, in a perfect world, as current constructed, Chicago would have an average offense with an elite rotation and bullpen. If that's the case, the Cubs could be a team to watch out for. But if that's their plan, more has to be done on both fronts. Adding another starter and a piece to the back end of their bullpen should be in the works if that's how they want to attack the remainder of the winter. There are a few options for Chicago to pursue in free agency market regarding bullpen pieces. There aren't many hitters, or there aren't many better pieces, excuse me, than Tanner Scott. He's a left-hander who was virtually unhittable last season. His price could be expensive, with some predicting him to land a $60 million deal in the current market. That's the price for the top relievers in Major League Baseball. Scott will have other suitors, including big market teams such as the Los Angeles Dodgers, who could be in play here and can never be counted out with the money they have to spend. RJ Anderson of CBS Sports believes the All Star will make his way to the Dodgers this winter, citing why he'd be an ideal fit in Los Angeles. Um, the Dodgers have made impressive moves in free agency, but they're expected to do more. This, like I said, Tanner Scott should be a priority for the Chicago Cubs this coming season with how he was able to pitch last year. He, like I said, he was virtually unhittable, and he was able to give to basically lock things down. Now, Tanner Scott is 30 years old. He had a 9.6 record, a 1.77 ERA, 84 strikeouts, and a 1.13 whip. So again, you can't ask for much better than that when you're talking about closing pitching. And when you're talking about a guy at the back end of your bullpen that is going to be able to come and to lock things down for you. I would say Tanner Scott would be somebody that I would be very closely looking into if I'm the Chicago Cubs. Like I said, he just did so much last year. Last year, he went between Miami and San Diego. And like I said, it was just a beautiful thing watching him pitch and close games for these teams. Now, what's important to note is the money aspect, because we know the Chicago Cubs are going to try whatever they can to do to find value in this free agency market, whether that is through saying trying to get guys on lower level deals, or whether that is them basically going out and trying to find guys that aren't requiring or asking for too much money that they could get in there, that they feel they can get in their lab and work with. Um, Again, it's just interesting to see and to think here that the Chicago Cubs could be in play for Tanner Scott. I think they absolutely should be talking to his man to his agent, and they absolutely should be trying to get him on this team. Again, we need that lockdown closer. We need somebody that can go slam the door on these 1-run, 2-run games so that we can make sure, as the Chicago Cubs fans, that we are in the position to be playing in the postseason. And I think Tanner Scott is the perfect guy to do that. Again, 54 million is kind of 50 between 54 to 60 million is kind of what we're looking at for Tanner Scott right now. If you are the Chicago Cubs, this could very well be something that's doable. Depending on how many years you stretch that money for, how much you sign him for. But like I said, I mean, for like I said, if you give him like a 3-year deal and you sign him for 60 million, that wouldn't be bad at all. The Chicago Cubs absolutely could do that, especially with freeing that money up from Cody Bellinger. So let me know below. Is Tanner Scott on your radar as far as Cubs closing pitchers, back of the bullpen pitchers that the Chicago Cubs need to be looking at this offseason? If you want Tanner Scott to be the Cubs closer in 2025, I need you to comment below. Tell me why. If you don't want Tanner Scott to be the Cubs closer, if you have your eye on somebody else you believe might be a better closer for the Chicago Cubs, comment below, and you never know. I just might do a video on that person next. But yeah, Porter Hodge was serviceable last year as well. I don't want to make it seem like he was terrible. Kid's only 23 years old, like I said, and he pitched 39 games for the Chicago Cubs. He earned 9 runs total and a 1.88 ERA for the season last year in his time in the big leagues. Remember, he also did not spend a lot of time in the majors last year. But for me, I just want to see the Chicago Cubs go out and spend the money to be the competitive team that we know that they can be. Now, moving on from that, more news on Roki Sasaki. This saga has played out right before our very eyes, and like I said, it's just been one thing after another. It's mixed reports after mixed reports. People saying, "Oh, I heard this about the Roki sweepstakes. Oh, I heard that about the Roki sweepstakes. Oh, this is what he's going to do. Oh, that's what he's going to do." To be quite honest with you guys, nobody outside of Roki Sasaki and his agent know exactly what he's going to do. But there is news that he has whittled it down from what was originally pretty much every team being in play for Roki to he started his second round of his meetings. And what I'm from everything that I've been reading and seeing, it's about 6 or 7 teams left in play. So his plan right now, he is back home in Japan, but his plan is to come and visit each city, to visit each field, obviously, to get a feel for the city. He wants to visit around. He wants to see the sights and sounds of the city, as well as visit the ballpark he'd be pitching at, get a feel, obviously, for that. And these are all things that he wants to do. Roki is well within his range to do so. But a weird thing about this whole Roki Sasaki saga is that how we were originally saying, like, oh, well, the Chicago Cubs need to hold on to Seiya Suzuki because Seiya Suzuki can help lure in Roki Sasaki. Oh, we need to, make sure that Shota Imanaga is a part of whatever pitch we do for Roki Sasaki. Even though Roki looked at what Shota Imanaga did last year for the Chicago Cubs, and he said, according to his agent, Joel Wolf, that's what made him make up his mind that he wanted to go to the majors, did not want to spend another season overseas. To me, it seems very odd and weird that he doesn't want to talk to any of the Japanese players. It seems very odd that he does not want any of the Japanese players in the sales pitch for that first meeting. They are not able to come do walkthroughs with him, have dinner with him, talk with him during his second meetings that he's going to do. Now, the Cubs obviously boast a very big Japanese pool right now, like I said, with having 2 of their main stars be Japanese players, phenoms over there, Shota Imanaga and Seiya Suzuki. You would think that Roki Sasaki would want to talk to these guys. You would think that he would use them and lean on them, especially considering both of them are older than him. You would think that he would want to use them for their knowledge on the city, the perks of pitching, especially Shota, pitching, what's it like pitching at Wrigley? Can I get how do I get a feel for the mound? Like I said, is what's different between pitching in the MLB versus pitching, overseas and things like that. You would figure that he would want their help. He would want their knowledge on certain things like this. But apparently, he wants to keep this strictly between him, his agent, and whatever team he's visiting. So these players are not able to come. And we were all hoping that Yu Darvish would still speak highly of the Chicago Cubs, which there is a rumor out there that Yu Darvish told Roki Sasaki that, the Chicago Cubs is the perfect place for him to come and pitch and play. And if that is so, Yu Darvish, I appreciate you so much. From one big Cubs fan to clearly another big Cubs fan, I appreciate that because Lord knows we need some good luck here in Chicago with getting all the big name free agents that we possibly can. And Roki Sasaki would do wonders for the Chicago Cubs and how we can maximize this season. But again, like I said, Roki Sasaki is he plans to visit each city. His decision will come between January 15th and January 23rd. Between those dates is when he will make his decision on where he is going to pitch for the foreseeable future. We'll also know then about what his deal is going to look like, and what he's going to do. Now, his agent Joe Wolf had some very interesting things to say because, like I said, a lot of questions have kind of been raised about why Roki Sasaki at the age of 23 did not wait 2 more years until he was 25 and he could sign for 40-50 million dollars. Instead, he's going to sign for somewhere close to around to 1.4-1.6 million dollars to play this coming season. Well, his agent Joe Wolf wanted to shed some light on that. He said he wants to be great. He watched what Shota did last year, and he just wants to be great. He wants to be able to come and get the experience of pitching in the major leagues. He wants to see what he can add to a major league team, and if he can come here and dominate, such as just like what Shota Imanaga did the year before. So again, he's been watching what Shota did. He watched very closely to what Shota did, and maybe him and Joel Wolf made the decision together. Like, look, we need to strike while the iron's hot. It's a Japanese invasion right now going on in the MLB. I'm sorry, that might have came out really wrong. Sorry if I offended anybody. But in all seriousness, though, like I said, the Japanese players are coming over and they are really enhancing the game. They are really growing the game of baseball, and they are putting their footprint and their mark in the game. And again, that's kudos to them. Strike while the iron's hot. Yamamoto got a big deal. Shota Imanaga is going to get an even bigger and better deal. So we'll say Suzuki when this next deal comes up. And Lord, let's not talk about Shohei Ohtani and the money he's making. Like I said, the Chicago Cubs are very well positioned to land Roki Sasaki, and Roki will get his payday in a couple of years. So maybe he just signs a 2-year deal. And then after that 2-year deal, or 2 or 3 year deal, then after that, maybe he looks to go and to sign that big major deal. Maybe he wants to get his feet wet. Maybe he wants to test his arm. Like I said, he lost some velocity on his pitches last season. He kind of struggled a little bit overseas with pitching last year. So maybe this season is the season he saw his opportunity, his chance to maximize coming over here while his arm and his strength is still strong and he's still able to do what he can do and be that wizard pitcher that he was overseas. Now, again, there may come an adjustment period. There may come a time, where he may struggle a little bit, or he could be like Shota Imanaga. I mean, to me, in my eyes, Shota Imanaga gave you a quality start each time he came out last year. And on top of that, he probably struggled 3 games that I can remember in total. So, I mean, for me, if you could get even half of that from Roki, like I said, I mean, you'd just be well off in the pitching department if you're the Chicago Cubs. And I think he would offer so much to this Cubs roster. So we got to remember dates to remember, guys. Like I said, January 15th, we begin Roki Watch. I don't know if he's going to immediately announce that on January 15th where he plans to and intends to sign, or if he will draw things out for a week and a half, and then announce to everybody where he plans to sign and join. But whatever the case may be, I'm excited to see him come over here to the MLB and pitch, even if it's not for the Cubs. Like I said, I mean, I granted I would much rather it be for the Cubs, but if you ask me, the Cubs have more moves up their sleeve if this Roki Sasaki thing does not play out. I definitely think that there's a couple deals on the table that could end up landing the Cubs a big pitcher anyways, a big starting pitcher anyways. So we'll just have to see about that. But I would love to see Roki Sasaki come to the Cubs. I think he would fit in well with the team. I think he would fit in well in the city. I think that he would be beloved, and that obviously Cubs fans will be excited to see him come pitch, for the Chicago Cubs. And he would have a blast doing so. So very, very interested to see what he decides to do. His agent, Joel Wolf, obviously is the same agent for who? Seiya Suzuki. So yeah, like I said, we got some things, we got some irons cooking. Joe Wolf is very familiar with Jed Hoyer and Carter Hawkins. So, like I said, we just kind of got to see what happens with all of that. Now, for my last note and story for today's episode, one thing that I have seen come about and that people have been talking about is the possibility of the Chicago Cubs being predicted to extend new slugger with a massive 8-year contract. Who else could I be talking about than King Tuck himself, Kyle Tucker, and him signing a massive contract with the Chicago Cubs? Now, listen, the Cubs aren't known to give around this type of money, but Kyle Tucker is definitely blockbuster. He's definitely somebody you could build this team around. With him only being 28 years old, he's definitely somebody that you could see get an 8 to 10 year contract with the Chicago Cubs and be worth every penny. I don't know if he'd play that whole contract out with the Chicago Cubs. He might get traded. There may be some opt-out clauses, maybe after year 3 or 4. I mean, like I said, for maybe a team option here or there. We'll see. But still, for the foreseeable future, to be able to get him and keep him from age 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, that's 5 years of him already at age 32. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, so that's still, and he still would have probably around 3 more years left with maybe with other options, so he could potentially end up playing for the Chicago Cubs all the way up until age 35. Now, what does this look like? Well, I went to the article to go find it. This article came from Sports Illustrated, and it was talking about Kyle Tucker being one of the Cubs' next steps that they need to take after after trading for him is extending him. He was like the Cubs landed the left-handed slugger in which is a step in the right direction. But if he departs next offseason, things could look much worse than they did just a few weeks ago. Um, Tucker will be just 28 years old next season, so a contract spanning over a decade seems likely. If that's the case, he could be looking at 45 plus million a year. There's also a scenario where the contract could be for 12 years, around $475 million total. However, Al Yellen of SB Nation doesn't expect that to be the case. He made a bold prediction for the Cubs and stated that the All-Star would slash 290, 400, and 500 with 35 home runs and sign an 8-year, $340 million deal. He said, obviously, that's nearly double the number of dollars in the Cubs' largest free agent deal, which was Jason Hayward. But Tucker's seven-war season will convince Tom Ricketts that he's worth keeping around. Tucker will also sell tons of jerseys and jerseys with his name on them, further proving to management that signing him will make them more money. If Tucker could be half for 340 million, there isn't any excuse for the front office not to get the deal done. I love it. I love it. I love locking down your players when you need to. I love taking care of business before things get out of control. I love, like I said, the thought process of the Chicago Cubs not even having to go into next offseason wondering, are we going to have to outbid a team that's going to offer him 450 million or maybe $500 million deal for Kyle Tucker next year? I would love for Tom Ricketts and for Jed Hoyer to prove all the pundits wrong and to sign this massive contract for Kyle Tucker. Listen, we know the guy's money. We know he's money. We know that he is very good at baseball. We know he's great at right field. We know he's a slugger. We know that he can do for this team. So to me, it just makes perfect sense to lock him down, to lock him into a deal. It makes perfect sense to go ahead and to not even have these wonders and these questions, but to be able to say, hey, listen, Chicago, Kyle Tucker is here to stay. We got him for 8 years. We got him for 10 years. We got him for 12 years. He is a Chicago Cub for the foreseeable future and a huge part of us trying to get back to World Series contention. Let me know what you guys think in the comments, though. Would you like the Cubs to go ahead and offer a $340 million 8-year contract to Kyle Tucker? I want to hear from you below. If you think that deal is too much, if you think that deal is not enough, do you think Kyle Tucker would accept that deal? Remember, guys, Kyle Tucker said in his entry interview for the Chicago Cubs that he is willing to talk extension during the season. If the season's going well, Cubs, go ahead, sign that deal, slide that deal in, sign that deal, sign, seal, delivered. Boom. Here, he's happy. We're happy. He's paid. We're essentially going to get paid through everything. Through the fans will get paid through his play. Ownership will get paid through the tickets he sells, and of course, Jed will get paid because he'll probably get a contract extension. So everybody wins. It's a win, 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 win all the way around. I don't see any negatives with offering Kyle Tucker that type of deal. Honestly, I think that's more of a steal of a deal at $340 million because he could be in line to make more, especially if he ends up winning the MVP award next season, guys, which I think is highly possible if he slashes these type of numbers. Like I said, I mean, you'll always have your Aaron Judges and your Shota Imanagas. I mean, I'm sorry, no, I'm Shohei Otani's going for 40, 50 home runs, which I think Kyle Tucker's very possibly could hit 40 home runs. I marked him at 40. Right here, the pundit said 35, but I think 40 is more a realistic thing. If Kyle Tucker hits 40 home runs, he's definitely going to be in the MVP race. And like I said, I think it would be great if he can keep him healthy all season long. We will be in a good spot as a Chicago Cubs team. So that's my time for today. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. First and foremost, do you want to see Tanner Scott be the Chicago Cubs closer in 2025? Then next, comment below and let me know, what are your thoughts on Roki Sasaki and this odd, very, very odd courting season that he's had in free agency so far, and his weird rules and requests? And are you even still interested in Roki Sasaki, or do you wish the Chicago Cubs would turn and look at making a trade for maybe somebody like a Luis Castillo or something like that? And then last but not least, do you want the Chicago Cubs to go ahead and sign Kyle Tucker to an extension either in this offseason or before the season starts or even during the season for $340 million for 8 years? Guys, if you want the Cubs to re-sign Kyle Tucker, go ahead, hit that like button down below. If you want the Chicago Cubs to go ahead and to sign Roki Sasaki, hit that share button. Guys, if you want the Chicago Cubs to get a closer so we don't have to worry about dropping games and losing games, please, please, please hit that sub button, smash the like button, hit the sub button. I appreciate you guys. I want all the conversation below. I love conversating with you guys all throughout the day as you watch. So please, 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 as this video is wrapping up, leave your comments. Let me know your thoughts. I'll chime back in with you, and we'll have a conversation. Let's talk some Cubs, y'all. Once again, this is your boy Mike Jones from the CCC, and I appreciate all of you. This is 2025. We're in for an exciting Chicago Cubs season. I cannot wait to see the boys in the pinstripes back on Wrigley Field. Once again, thank you all so much for tuning into this show. Be sure to tune in to the Crosstown Conversations coming up Monday morning. Before have a good weekend. I appreciate all of